I'm not perfect, and I have to tell them that. I tell anybody that. But my job is to continuously discipline myself, my thoughts, my words, and my actions to reflect what I want to see put out into the world. And if I don't want you cussing at me, don't cuss it. If I don't want to cuss at you, no. If I don't want it being reciprocal, why am I going to put it out there? That's my thing. I think the solution for most anything, if there's an issue, you can usually find some level of hypocrisy going on. Somebody trying to treat somebody else in a way that they don't want to be treated. Whether
and
it's
all of this has
violence,
to do with domestic violence and abuse, correct?
And it goes back to consent. If once you remove consent and people want to change the language, I've seen this happen so many times. Adults will change the language when it comes to children. The police or systemic racism changes the language when it comes to Black people. It's like, oh, well, no, this is not that. No, you're doing the same thing. You're treating us poorly. You're doing something to me that you would not want done to yourself or your loved ones. Parents, same thing to children. So if they get older and then the parents need to be taken care of, and then you have elder abuse, where did they learn to abuse people that you're taking care of? Where did they learn to even hit them or yell at them or anything like that? So that, to me, that's my solution. When it comes to domestic violence, it is making sure that consent, you have to speak about consent. So when people want to get out, they have to have a safe space to say, look, can I tell you this? And will you help me? Seek consent from the person that you're saying, I want to tell this to. Because everybody is not going to be there for you to help you get out. They may not even be in a position to help you. So you might have to ask people, can I tell you something very, very deep that I'm going to need help with? And give them a chance to make an informed decision. Same thing. Don't tell people that, for me, I don't want to tell children that this action right here is discipline, but in this situation, it's abuse. No, if somebody putting their hands on you and you don't want them to, and they trying to cause you pain to correct your behavior, it's abuse. It's abuse. I don't care what age you at. I don't care what your gender. If somebody is putting their hands on you to cause you pain, to change your behavior, it's abuse. Or to make you stay somewhere or do anything, whether it's a grown woman, a grown man being abused by a woman.
Okay, so this whole discussion has there's a viewer saying something. If a man beats or rapes a woman and we want to punish him, but he doesn't. Did you catch that, Osa?
If a man beats or rapes a woman and we want to punish him, but he does not consent to the punishment of prison or death, then we should let him be free because he doesn't consent. Or even if we wanted to remove him from society, sorry, let me scroll down just a little bit. Society to protect others, but he viewed that as a form of punishment and did not consent, should he be free?
Now that can go vice versa, because we have women abusing men. So we need to caution the viewer that, once again, you're targeting men as though they're the only ones who can commit abuse. They are not the only ones. Okay. So for you to single out, I want you to know there's a vice versa. Should a woman who is abusing a man be subjected to the same form of punishment that in your question that you are imposing upon men? Because it can go both ways. So we need to look at it objectively in both ways. So to answer the question, anybody that commits an act of abuse upon another person, also we talked about the 4 physical forms of abuse, there should be some type of punishment. Now, what you have to remember with Brother Mind Ascension with us today is he has walked us through the history, okay, of it. Now, I don't know if you've been here throughout the whole discussion, but he's walked us to the history of it and how it came about and with whom it came about. So we cannot in modern society get stuck. And this is where we are with domestic violence and abuse. It's not just towards women, it's also towards men, definitely towards elders, definitely towards children, anyone who cannot defend themselves from their abuser, anyone who cannot even remove themselves from the situation is at risk. And there needs to be some form of protection that they can rely upon to remove themselves from that situation comfortably. And we know many of them are losing their lives. Some of them, their abuser will follow them from state to state, stalking them. So this is where we are. It's not about should he consent to the form of punishment or her. At that point,
he already did.
He already consented.
They
already consented the moment
violated consent,
he or she committed the crime against your personage. It's sometimes, our actions are also a non-verbal form of agreement. Now, Brother Mine.
I would love to interject right now because
go ahead, Brother Mine. Go ahead.
I completely understood that question, and I think that you misunderstood the way it was worded. Of course, automatically, when it comes to abuse, we always use the woman as the template of being the victim of abuse. I don't think she was saying it to dismiss women abusing women or adults or anything of that nature. What I feel that she was saying was going off
to our viewer. Go ahead, brother.
What I feel she was saying was going off what the sister was referring to when she kept saying consent. Now, once again, I keep finding what seems like to my left brain, just to me, a lot of contradictory aspects the further we dive into this. Because first it's like, okay, I don't care who they are. I don't care what gender they are. I don't care what age they are. I don't care what's going on. Nobody should be putting their hands on you to rectify anything you do if you do not give consent to it. Am I correct? Is that what you said?
Sister Kamaya.
Barring somebody's life being in jeopardy or something like that, you are absolutely correct. And I want to answer the caller's question, which is if the person rapes, they have, by virtue of the fact that they violated someone's consent, they have consented to having whatever punishment you give them because they've already violated consent.
Now, hold on now. Now, see,
so
this is the stuff
that with their
sounds
actions.
Okay, I got you. Now, I heard everything properly. I just wanted to make sure before I continued that I wasn't speaking on something that I misunderstood. So it sounds like I heard everything properly. Now, I find that kind of interesting because who is the one that has the power to deem that the act that they've done is deserving of punishment over their own verbal consent? That's like me as a husband going, first of all, my wife broke the marriage and traditional rules of marriage. Now she has given me consent to rectify her, even though her words and out of her mouth, she says, I don't want you to touch me. I don't want you to do nothing to me. That is irrelevant because her actions has given me the consent by her actions. That sounds kind of contradictory to the whole thing.
Hold on. Before you interject, Akamaye, I have Osa who needs to interject, and then we can come back to you, Akamaye. Okay, so let's let Osa go, and then we'll bounce back to you and continue.
Okay, so from my understanding, like me personally, I'm not against spanking as a form of discipline, but I see it as a last resort. So I gave the example of a child having a fork about to stick it in a socket. Like that's the degree that I say yes, because you have to stop that child from killing themselves. So when it comes to discipline, to me, as adults, we have to understand that there's levels. So the first response should never be to hit a child. The first response should never be to yell at a child. But we do understand that things do escalate based on the child's behavior or based on something that's immediate danger. Like if a child's running across the street and about to get hit by a car, yes, you're getting yelled at. And I think we have to start understanding that when we're saying abuse, we're saying the parent has it. And I think that's probably why the back and forth keeps happening, is because we haven't defined what we mean in this conversation about abuse. So we're saying a parent is upset, so then they take it out on the child, whether this is verbally, whether this is physically, whether it's withholding love or withholding different emotions. Those are all forms of abuse. But when you're correction of a child, no, it doesn't always involve hitting, but in a time where it's a life or death situation, or that's the thing that's going to snap them back. You get what I'm saying? Because we've already exhausted every single option. So I think this is what Brother Mind Ascension was touching on, is that his mother had already exhausted all of the other options for him. So in that form, she didn't have any. It was like, okay, what do I do, at this point, especially if you don't have support. So we're not advocating for child abuse. I'm not advocating for spanking. I'm saying that we have to understand that when we're talking about abuse and when we're talking about how do we train our children, how do we discipline our children without causing them harm, I think we have to understand, one, we have to understand the child. So we have to try every possible way first. I think exhaust every option before you try to physically abuse a child, because then it becomes, then that's where the abuse is, because now you're like, okay, I told them to sit down 5 times. Okay, now I'm going to hit them. It's like, no, we have to find other ways to let the child know that this is we're the dominant in the situation, and you don't have to always hit. I still, like I said, I believe it's life or death situation where you're trying to protect that child's danger. Then that's where you get the physical or the pain, and that's where that lesson learns. But at that point, the child has brought that on themselves at that point.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Okay.
I think you're protecting the child too. You're not trying to cause them harm or pain to hurt them. You're trying to protect their life.
Okay.
That's different from saying what you said, sit down, and they don't do it 5 times. So now you're going to cause them physical pain in a way that you wouldn't want somebody to do to you to change their behavior. You hit the nail on the head, sis. You really did. Thank you for clarifying that too.
Thank you. Brother Mind, go ahead and please continue with your interjection. I want to make known to our viewers, when we misread and misinterpret your questions or statements, we will apologize. We are not here. I'm not an expert. I think it may be safe to say that the expert here as our special guest speaker is Brother Mind Ascension Alchemy, and we're so glad to have him with us to be our polarity in discussing intelligently the history of domestic violence and abuse and the terms that we've adopted and the hypocrisy between the differences as far as a man is subjugated to a particular type of treatment. When he does it, it's different. And then when a woman does the same thing, yet because of her gender, it gets reclassified and retermed. So Brother Mind Ascension, can you, is there anything you want to iterate on how we are programmed to accept what happens to a man is different, what happens to a woman is different, whether they are being victimized or they are the ones who are, inflicting what's happening to either gender?
Well, I think we can immediately use the personal, what you call it, what's the word I'm looking for? The personal example that the sister queen Akamaye, if I'm saying her name correctly, I'm always very hesitant to make sure I'm saying names correctly. So sometimes I might not say your name because I don't want to say it incorrectly. So Akamaye.
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 Yes.
See, that's why I just leave names alone sometimes. Akamaye. Akamaye. I think what you just said and what you just asked me, I think the example that she gave is a decent example to relate and correlate to what you just asked me, because that night that she had the situation with her husband and these elder women or the circle of women stepped in, one of the first things, I believe, I don't know if the elders said it or if she said it or Osa said it, but you can't unleash a certain energy onto the masculine force and allow that masculine force to unleash itself upon you as a form of reciprocation or defense, because you should understand that that masculine force might be something that you can't handle as the feminine vessel and anatomy is structured to be. So I think that was a decent example, because a lot of times I don't think when we correct as family members, as elder women and stuff like that, when we calm a woman down, just like Akamaye said, it's a form of protection, because it's like, listen, girl, you know, you get up in his face and you keep pointing in his eye and you keep da-da-da-da-da, he might unleash something he can't necessarily help, because that's another thing I think we don't take in consideration. And I can speak from this as a man. We have instinctual reflexes, and we are beast-like by our nature. So when you present yourself as a beast to us, we immediately go into beast mode. Mm-hmm. And that is something that is designed for us to do in order to protect you. But if we are the one being attacked, then immediately we have an instinctual response. And this is why sometimes you will see certain examples. Like, I'll speak from a personal experience I had. I saw my uncle and my aunt, who he's not my biological, but this is my biological aunt and the husband that she married to this day, which is so funny. But anyway, great man, but I'm not gonna lie. I saw one moment in my life where he abused my aunt, because my aunt was a real powerful woman. Where, you know, we use these terms, super strong and super powerful. And she literally was, smacking him in the face, mushing his head 1,000 times. And he finally snapped, and he took her and ran and threw her so hard without knowing his own strength. He threw her so hard into the wall that she got stitches across her head. And to this day, she still has that scar. And she's been married to this man for about 20 years now. And they're happily married and loving each other like crazy. But my point of the matter is, we are designed differently for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that over the years, the combination of the adaptation of this woman warrior / take no shit / anything you say I don't agree with is disrespect / I can do anything a man can do / this thing has warped itself and mutated itself into a behavior that a lot of men are not as accepting of as other men. And I'm not condoning anything, but as a heterosexual masculine man myself, there's only but so far that you're going to be able to go with me. And especially, and there's been times where women will stand in front of the door to meet, many times where a woman will make sure you can't walk out. So when I toss your ass to the side and something happens by my brute force, that you hit your head on something, and now for the rest of my life, I'm an abuser and I'm a woman beater, despite the fact that I've never raised my hand to you one time, except the time I tried to remove you from the door so I can leave. You know, I think a lot of times with what has been adopted in our current woman, and I like to use the term female to be precise, because there are women today who are aware of the indoctrinations, aware of the I'm super strong, don't need no man strength, yada, yada, but she still conducts herself as a lady, as a woman, and conducts herself as I'm sure that you ladies do in here. But there is a majority of females today that truly feel that they need to be going toe to toe with men. And they don't understand that there is a instinctual reaction inside of us by our hormonal testosterone buildup that we will react without thinking. And sometimes that reaction can hurt you very bad because that is our design and that's how we're built. And this is why one thing I always teach is that the man is a tool, servant, sword, shield, and compass. Woman is superior to men in my teaching. Now, I'm sure a lot of other people, oh, we're all equal, blah, blah, blah. I don't follow none of that. By my science, by what I've studied, by what I know, by historical aspect, about all these things in abundance, the woman is superior spiritually. She is superior cortex brain-wise, and she is superior in many other biological aspects that we never go into. And the fact that her superiority in that aspect is what makes her to be cherished, not makes her to be, you bowing down. And we're not talking about that type of superiority. We're talking about the superiority that a child has to be so precious and to be so to a level of purity that they should never be touched a certain way, or they should never be treated a certain way. Now, because this current adoption of this cave woman mentality to where she's always fighting against her own man, that combined with the decades of strife, abandonment, and all the different things that I named much earlier from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, from the heroin epidemic, the crack epidemic, civil rights movement, all these different things that happened to our men to destroy them and remove them from the home. Within those decades has created and condensed such a virgin of energy that we see today of the current female, that just like you mentioned before, Queen Net, of the woman in front of your apartment one night that was doing her best to beg a man to hit her.
Yes.
And she would not leave the man alone until the man snapped and tried to hit her. Mm-hmm. So this goes back into what I feel. This is my personal thing. Now, Osa,
I want to interrupt. And
yes.
After you, Kamaye, we're going to give you 5 minutes to express yourself, and then we're going to bounce right back to our guest speaker and let him wrap it up for us for the evening. And we're going to thank everyone for coming and being a part of the live Zoom webinar for WADA. This is Women Against Domestic Abuse. This is our second live Zoom abuse webinar. We will be having Brother Mind Ascension back for a part 2, 3, 4. We're going to utilize him because that's what he is. He is our tool as polarity. So Kamaye, take 5 minutes. Then we're going to bounce back over to our guest speaker, let him wrap it up for us. And we appreciate all of you who endured the discussion. And we are constantly going to be doing this intelligently, dealing with domestic violence and abuse. So Kamaye, 5 minutes. Brother Mind Ascension, you will wrap it up for us.
I didn't really need 5 minutes. I just wanted to share something, add on with what Brother Mind Ascension was saying. I had that experience. My husband has never ever hit me. But like I said, in the beginning of the relationship where I was learning about that and the elders were teaching me, it definitely came to the point where he hit his chest and was like, "What? You don't know how much net came out." I was like, "Ooh, what was that?" I literally started doing this movement like, "Ooh." And I was like, "Yeah, turn that around in defense of the family only." And I don't try to take him there. No. Mm-hmm. Because what you're saying is correct. There is a different energy inside of a Black man, and it's beautiful, but you do not want it directed at you. And I've had many of friends who knew before they hand left the side of their body, they was like, "I knew I was gonna hit the floor, but I did it anyway." Okay, as long as you knew, but before you know, you don't know that beast of an energy.
Yes.
But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful energy. You just want it directed in defense of the family.
Now hold on. And I love this so much. This is why I love beautiful queens who are just
and wrap it up for us. Wrap it up for us, Brother Mind.
Yes. Because was she really, because let's be honest, what that energy you felt was that fire, that kundalini going through you. And sometimes we don't want to admit it, but when a man can exercise his strength without destroying you, when he can exercise his power and his strength without damaging you, there's something arousing about that. And let's just cut it out, because, and that's the thing that I feel is such a problem today. We have to pretend we don't like this and we don't accept this and blah, 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 blah. There is a proper and improper way to do everything, in my opinion now. So just like Osa said earlier, she said, listen, if my child about to put a damn fork in a socket, I think they need a spanking for that. So that is the proper way that you would want to discipline the child, to let them know, listen, that spanking is replacing the electric shock that I was going to feel. So now when I get ready to take my fork, I remember that spanking and I stop myself. So I agree with that example that she said. Now to wrap it all up, I love y'all ladies so much. And everything is about energy. And one thing I think we need to peel away every aspect. And I know it's going to sound crazy. But we need to peel away every aspect of humanity that gives us the perception of trauma, abuse, drama, all these different perceptions, which, by the way, always change with your era. Because if we go to every different era that all of us have been raised in differently, that era gives us a different perspective of what's right or wrong. But if we peel away everything that gives us that perspective, which is our humanism, and we only see energy, guess what? She was going to look at her husband that night and say, oh shit, that's the masculine energy. And she would have stopped.
Yes.
Because she would have just saw the fire. She wouldn't have saw her husband. She wouldn't have saw that attractive man. She wouldn't have saw that sweetheart. She would have saw that fire getting ready to burn her. And then she would have immediately shut everything down, just like she did already. But he had to do something physical. He had to hurt him. That's why, if you notice, men will hurt themselves before they hurt you. This is a big flag that women need to pay attention to, because I find it very shameful. And don't get me wrong. I think a man should control himself. But when a man chooses to punch a wall instead of you, give him some props, because the fact that he's ready to destroy his whole arm because he doesn't want to touch you instead, that is a whole nother level of discipline to that man. Now, of course, maybe he should have picked a better way. I agree with that too. But the fact that your face did not replace that wall, let's give him some props on that. Because there is an energy inside us that only gets unleashed. And when it's unleashed, it gotta go somewhere. It got to. In the same way as when our women get emotional, it's another thing I teach. I can't stand. Now, this I find abusive, and me and Net has talked about this many times. I cannot stand a man that wants to shut down your emotions and shut down your expression when you are in a state of either anger, disappointment. I don't care what. I don't care if you're crying over your broken nail. As your man, I need to allow you to express every part of yourself in every degree of energy possible, so you can be free of that suppression of that feeling. And I honestly feel that today, one of the main destructive aspects of our women is they're trying so hard to be men and pretend they don't feel anything. So the more you pretend that you don't feel that pain or that emotion, or you don't want to cry in front of him because you don't want him to think you weak. First and foremost, what makes me immediately become your servant is that you are more precious than me. But if you show me that you're just as strong as me, and you show me that you're just as a man as I am, guess what? You just went from a piece of gold to a piece of rock. And as I teach, nobody cherishes a rock. We cherish gold. We cherish diamonds. We cherish the most precious stones. And in my ideology, my teaching, in my opinion, the woman is the platinum, gold, and diamond of the planet. The man is the iron and rock ore. And that's why you can make him into a sword, use him up, chop your way into life, And when he gets dull and he decides not to sharpen himself, you got every right to replace that sword. Because I was created as your tool. Once I become obsolete and out of order, replace my ass. But if I become out of order or become dull to the edge of my blade, and then I decide to sharpen myself up, or you stop me from refining myself, which, by the way, goes into what I said earlier. We have to stop babying our boys. By all means, treat your daughters like queens. Keep doing what you're doing. But it's the boys today that are so passive and that are so babied, and they're so protected from fall and scraping their knee, and they're so protected from harmful words and all this stuff, that they become a man that as soon as a woman starts expressing themselves to that man that used to be that boy that mama kept protecting herself with, guess what? He feels justified to attack her because he never heard those words before, and nobody ever even tried to hold him accountable for nothing in his life. So the very second that woman recognizes that he's a certain level of man that she does not want to accept, he feels the right to be outlandish and attack her if it's just in a verbal form, because we got a lot of men out here that doing the most disgusting, spiteful things that don't have to do with the physical. We got men out here that are in relationships with women and have built a trust with a woman, but as soon as a woman don't like them, they showing all the intimate things to the whole world that the woman entrusted him with. They're slandering her name all over the world that the woman entrusted him with. That to me, that's abusive as well. And to me, that is a feminine, spiteful trait that our men have adopted because they've been raised as feminine boys, and they've been raised as passive boys. When I used to come home with it, because, I ain't gonna lie, I used to get into a lot of fights when I was a kid in school, a lot of scuffles. And when I used to come home with my nosebleed, my mother would look at me and she said, I hope you messed up that boy's shirt the same way you messed up mine, because I bought that shirt for you. And she instilled in something in me that never made me fearful of death, pain, struggle. And guess what that turned me into? It turned me into a machine. So now there's nothing that I could go without to make sure my queen has. It's nothing to me to starve myself for 2 weeks to make sure there's food on the table. It's nothing to me to risk my freedom to go to jail so my woman never has to encounter that form of struggle, because I've been raised to be a man. I haven't been raised to be some passive boy that can't get his Nikes dirty, that can't get his hands dirty. And this is what we're dealing with today when we're dealing with these men that are beating on women, and when we're dealing with these men that are treating women as second-class citizens when they are supposed to be above the man. I am the root. You are the flower. I am rooted to the ground for a reason, but you grow in any direction you choose on how the sun is shining on you. But it's my roots that hold you stable. And if I'm not the roots no more, guess what? Somebody snatch you out the ground every 5 seconds. Yes, go on, Queen.
All right. So is that how you wrapping us up, Brother Mine?
I'm wrapping us up by saying everything is energy and polarity. And if you conduct yourself in the masculine energy as the feminine form and anatomy, you will receive the opposite of that energy. Therefore, you will attract a feminine passive man that you cannot deal with because you still desire the function of a real man. So then eventually you will end up doing things to belittle him. You will end up doing little things that you might not be conscious of at the time that will actually make him feel that he's justified in mistreatment of you because he actually is dumb enough to think he's equal to you.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
And there we have it. And we are looking forward to doing a part 2 series at a later date.
I didn't even touch on the timeline.
We didn't get to the timeline, but we
didn't get to the timeline.
We get to that timeline in part 2 when we set that up with you, Brother Mind. Once again, this is Wada. Osa, you got something to say?
I'm all set. Just go to the website, wadanow.org, WADANOW.org, and it is a growing resource. So we would also like any suggestions, or if you guys want to suggest, if you all want to suggest topics, we're also open to that. We want to give the people what they need to help grow and develop.
Yes. And I am DEBRA Faye of the DEBRA Show, aka Oracle.
Auntie Nettie.
Auntie Nettie. You use whatever term of endearment. And give a shout out to the WNT9 Network. I enjoy being an affiliate sponsor of WADA, Women Against Domestic Abuse. Once again, we're sending y'all some Pinwheel love. Be different and love it. Keep your hands to yourself. If you're in a relationship where you are being abused, please call Osa. Give them the call numbers.
We do have the national hotline, and let me pull that up. Sorry, you guys. So you have the National Domestic Abuse Hotline. You also have your hospitals and your medical care facilities are good resources for you. If you are in school, if you're a teenager or a child who is being abused, you can let the school faculty know, or any counselors.
Can I just interject one last thing to add on to what Osa's saying?
Yes, sir.
All of you males and men out there that are aware that you have a friend, a brother, a uncle, a cousin who is putting his hands on his black woman, and you do absolutely nothing. You are absolutely nothing. And before we have to call all these different agencies that, let's be honest, most of them ain't ran by us and all this stuff, before we need to establish a foundation where we can call a group of men, or we can call a brother who will call his group of men, and they will come to that place and they will police that man. We don't have to put hands on him immediately, because as soon as he see us and our demeanor, he's going to understand that it's time for him to pack his bags and cool himself down. And if he still don't understand that, then it will come to what by any means necessary. So speaking as a fellow man who has been there before and who has done that and been in jail for it, if you are a man and you claim to be a heterosexual masculine man, and you are allowing some woman that you know to be abused consistently, and you do absolutely nothing. I ain't saying you got to play Superman, put on the cape by yourself. Go get your next door neighbor. Tell him, yo, bro, listen, would you like somebody beat on your mama? Nah, man, somebody touched my mama. It's on. Okay, well, guess what? Somebody touching somebody else's mama right now. And get that neighbor and get the boy across the street. Y'all don't have to touch the man. But as long as y'all are there in presence, at least it will let all of these males and feminine boy adults know that there is some form of at least present or visual consequence to their actions. And until we can get that together, because we're always giving out these, and I'm not knocking any of it, it's all great to utilize, but we need to hold men accountable, especially as men, because I'm always talking to, right now I'm doing a counseling with a couple right now, and I'm not gonna lie, you know, the brother, I've talked to him a lot of times, and it's to the point where I'm ready to do stuff to him, you know, but he's not even physically really abusive. He's abusive in all the different ways. So knowing that, I keep tabs on him. I keep tabs on him by my own personal choice. And because of that, his relationship is a little bit more better, because he knows he can't justify his behavior because mine Ascension is going to hear about it, because his wife got my number and his wife knows everything about me and how to reach me. And I'm always there to be reached by her. So as men, we need to take accountable and stop allowing our women to run to white court systems, white police, white authority, in order to protect themselves from black men like us. That's a shame. That's a shame. And I'm gonna close with that.
Okay, and I'm going to close with a suggestion from Akamaye. As women, sisterhood, we have got to formulate ourselves as well to calm down our feminine bodies when we know that they are instigating and inciting that beast-like protective nature within men, to cool them down and not allow them to put themselves in harm's way. So once again, from WADA, Women Against Domestic Abuse, This is our second webinar. We appreciate all of you so much. And from the DEBRA Show, we're going to leave you all with, all right, everybody. Y'all, come on, yeah, you haven't said it yet. Man, Ascension. Oh,
What?
y'all all got to say, be different and love it. Come on, let's go.
Be different and love it.
Love it.
Do I get paid for this commercial?
No. It's all volunteer. We're a nonprofit.
Well, then be different and love it again.
All right. All right. Signing off.
Take care, Queens. Love y'all.
Thank you. Peace and blessings. Mwah.
Wait, how do you do it?